So I think like 6 months ago, or whenever it was, there was a ripple in the water at Red Bull Racing. Due to a barrage of things largely created by one headache, rumors abound the team's technical chief, Adrian Newey, was set to cut bait and leave the team that he had been with since 2006. When it was confirmed that he was leaving, many pondered, well, where he going? Pretty soon, everyone was so damn confident that he would be leaving for Ferrari to join the greatest team in the history of motor racing at a time where Charles Leclerc and Sir Lewis Hamilton would be running in tandem, prancing around the world's racetracks as one of the best driver pairings in recent memory. Everyone was convinced this was a lock. This was a match made in heaven. Fast forward to September the 10th, and it has been announced that Adrian Newey will indeed sign with Aston Martin. Wait, what? What? There were rumors that this may happen, but we just kind of brushed it aside as something that could just never happen, like meeting Santa Claus or getting out of the friend zone. Surely Newey was going to Ferrari because everyone was talking about it, right? But eventually, as the days led up to September, it became more and more clear that Newey didn't really have much of an appetite for living in Italy. Thus, it came down to any team based in Britain. In other words, over half the teams. A return to Williams was pondered, but of course, that didn't happen. Mercedes were also there, but they soon found themselves out of the running for whatever reason. McLaren didn't really need him since they already had a rocket ship. Then the smoke turned into an inferno, with it becoming crystal clear that Big Daddy Lawrence Stroll was not messing around with his F1 team. Money certainly talks in Formula One. You don't believe me? Ring up an F1 team, tell them you got $50 million in sponsorship, and see just how fast they could schedule a test for you. Now, quadruple that, and you'd pretty much have what Newey was being offered by Big Daddy to take up the position of managing technical partner at Aston Martin for 5 years, as well as becoming a shareholder within the brand. With this vocation being just confirmed now, Newey no longer has to ponder house hunting in Italy, and now has a chance to build up a team that is quintessentially British. No, wait, it's owned by Big Daddy, isn't it? No. Let's not forget his heritage. Okay, so Aston Martin have signed Adrian Newey. What now? The narrative is that this will surely guarantee Aston Martin a championship, whether it be drivers or constructors or both. But is this entirely true? Sure, we're so wrapped up in his recent successes at Red Bull, and when you look at his overall history, he is, well, to say that he's accomplished is an understatement. He first broke into Formula One working at Copersuca, or Fittipaldi if you so please, in the early 1980s, but his first attempt at actually designing a Formula One car came in 1988 with the March 881. Now, to lend some context here, March's glory days were well behind them. They had actually just returned to Formula One the previous year, but only managed to score points once, and in qualifying, they were typically back in the nosebleeds, with cars named after brands of orange juice. In came Newey with this thing, and holy shiitake. Despite McLaren having arguably the greatest racing car of all time at their disposal, the 881 got embarrassingly close to them, even going so far as to be a vague threat at some points, something that Williams never managed to do themselves despite having the best car the previous year. So Frank saw this extraordinary feat and duly snapped him up, and it was there that, with the FW14 and Nigel Mansell at the helm, he would design his first World Championship winning car in 1992. His cars would win a further 4 Constructors' Championships and 3 more drivers' ones. This would continue until the end of 1996, when he would leave Williams for McLaren. Over the course of 97, he did the best with a car that was already designed before he got there, but then come 98 and 99, the championships would return to Woking, despite a simmering dynasty at Ferrari that included Michael Schumacher, Jean Todt, Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, and 56 million Italians ready to throw tomatoes at even the vaguest threat to any car not painted red. Though no more championships would be won at McLaren, Newey did design some ferociously fast cars, including the MP420, which by all means should have won the championship in 2005. By this time, however, he was ready to switch teams again. Actually, he was on the brink of switching teams a few years before this, almost signing for the Jaguar Formula One team, before the team's internal politics further drove itself into the dirt. But 5 years later, when the team became Red Bull Racing, he finally made the switch over to Milton Keynes. The team was nowhere near the level that they should have been, hence why they offered Newey $10 million a year to come along and hand in some drawings. things. There were some initial teething troubles, as you might expect, but come 2009, the team began to rise, and by the early 2010s, it was a time of pure domination. People up and down the paddock had fully bought into Newey's stock, and his reputation by now was solid gold. Obviously now, we know the influence that he's had in the more recent years, and so with all the success and trophies and other hoo-ha, it seems that Aston Martin have found their final piece to the puzzle. They've got their new state-of-the-art facility at Silverstone, which will be invaluable to the team's R&D above everything else. They brought on board a new flurry of investors, reaching into the billions to help pull them out of debt and continue investing in the team, an influx of great engineers and technical minds, the looming partnership with Honda, and now they've got arguably the greatest car designer in Formula One history. And of course they've got him. I guess the way to show fatherly love is to spend $100 million on their son's racing career to try and make them the champion of the world, whereas he simply could have done that for the price of a bag of chips and a hot dog handshake in a street corner by simply putting him in WEC. But despite all of what we know, is a championship now guaranteed for Aston Martin? Well, while Newey's history is fabled, it isn't exactly immaculate. In just about every instance where he left a team, March, Williams, McLaren, and now Red Bull, it seemed to have been under acrimonious circumstances. At times, Newey felt that he wasn't being given the proper respect. Issues such as driver changes weren't run by him, and limitations via management went against the environment that he wanted, the environment in which he could thrive. There were also large drought spots in his history. McLaren failed to capture a championship after '99, and the reliability of his cars were terrible. And from 2014 to 2020, Red Bull were not this behemoth that we speak of now or spoke of before then. Mercedes' stranglehold on the sport obviously made it difficult to make any headway. But the point in all of this is that bringing Adrian Newey in isn't going to guarantee you a championship. In some ways, it doesn't even guarantee you a win either. Even in some of his glory years, it was a matter of the stars aligning, joining the right team at the right time. And let's say for instance that Michael Schumacher didn't mash his legs at Silverstone in '99. Would the McLaren have won the championship that year? Because after all, Mika Hakkinen just barely beat Eddie Irvine. But while everyone asks whether Newey can get Aston Martin that world championship, my question is, can he save Aston Martin? What? What kind of question is that? Well, I asked that because with all the promises ever since Big Daddy bought the team a few years ago and dollops a promise here and there, it feels like they've underachieved. Despite the investment and despite the influx of talent and experience that they got before this, there were rumors that Stroll was going to sell the team and give up this little venture, all because the investment was just not working out for him. And while the hiring of Newey is a big catch, let's be frank here, Ferrari never had Newey, Mercedes never had Newey, McLaren don't currently have Newey, yet all of those guys beat Newey. So no, I do not think that this hiring is going to guarantee a championship for Aston Martin, but what you can take to the bank is that they'll at least win a race with him. Seldom has there been a year where one of his cars didn't win a race, and with the new regulations coming in 2026, right about where his first designs are going to come into play, his years of success and expertise will certainly be invaluable to them to even just take them up the grid just a little bit more, to help them take the next step up the ladder, which for them could be all they need. But all of this depends upon how the team is managed. We have seen in the past that things can end frosty between he and the teams that he's in. Who's to say that won't happen here, especially if the environment isn't what Big Daddy promised it would be? Could he be falling for the promise of the emptiness machine? But given his job title, as well as the fact that he's now a shareholder, it appears that perhaps Newey will be given carte blanche and a blank check to effectively do exactly what he wants. Maybe even also getting a hand in the Valkyrie WEC project. This may be Newey Unleashed, and that, my friends, is really f***ing scary. Formula One is a collaborative effort. One person isn't gonna take it from the back to the front by themselves. It doesn't work like that. You need all the cogs working to get this thing running. And if the premise of all of this is to make one specific person, who only shows up 4 to 5 races a year, champion of the world, you might be about to piss all of that away, and that if he didn't get it, he would be, what would you be, Mr. Lawrence?
I'm extremely angry.
Right. Although, the last time that he went to these lengths, Lance did win the European F3 Championship. Just don't ask about the rumors on team orders. Or perhaps that's not the case, and maybe for Stroll the team does come first. If that is the case, then Aston have an insanely good chance of becoming a dynasty. Because we're not just talking about a driver here, an engineer there, everything will be in place to make this happen. It almost seems like Newey is the final piece to the puzzle. That, and not just him, in the end, will be what saves Aston Martin. So I guess my prediction of Lance Stroll winning a race may actually come true.
For someone to save.